If there are no questions, I turn it over to our Chief Executive Officer, um, Smith.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. I'm going to start off with the opening portions of the budget that goes over our challenges and opportunities, and then I will turn it over to our CFO, um, uh, Precious.
I'm sorry, Mr. Nesmith, but can someone give me the ability to share the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Try, because we have the agenda up at the moment.
Commissioner Lewis, I do want to unfortunately correct a statement I made earlier. I believe I was looking at the wrong list. Commissioner Hardeman isn't a member of the Admin and Finance Committee, so I do apologize. It is only you in attendance and Commissioner McCray at this point. At this time, I do not see a quorum. However, we can still continue because I don't believe there's anything to vote on today. So I do apologize for my error.
That's quite all right. Quite all right. So we'll continue. We'll move on with the presentation.
Absolutely. I think we want to wait until Precious gets access to share the screen to put it up.
Are you guys able to see now?
Yes.
Great.
So let's move to the screen that is page 3, if you could. Right. So agency-wide, the subsidy loss related to budget challenges. Subsidy loss related to asset repositioning, and that is what we should be doing. That is the demolition and redeveloping of our public housing assets. The agency has this year and will each year realize an additional loss of operating subsidy and fee revenue due to asset repositioning. That is of Creighton and all of our big 6 public housing. The resulting reduction in HUD subsidy / revenue will continue as we execute on our mission to redevelop our public housing sites. Occupancy and aging infrastructure. And when I'm finished, I will ask for a question before we move to Precious. Occupancy, aging infrastructure, and lack of HUD funding. The agency continues to face challenges in reaching 98% occupancy in order to receive full funding from HUD. The reason RRHA could not meet the 98% occupancy because of its old and deteriorated RRHA housing stock and the lack of HUD funding to maintain and turn units for lease-up. Increased costs has caused the agency to drop below the HUD required cash reserve level of 4 to 6 months, and he's created a lost revenue needed to support the central office cost center. Next page under non-payment. We can go to the next slide. Right. Non-payment of rent. 4.3 million we lost annually due to non-payment of rent by tenants. Some tenants owe between $10,000 and over $30,000 in rent. This is a big problem. In fact, I'm going off script here a little bit. In fact, this year, the beginning of this year, we were to begin with lease enforcement. And then we were hit, I think most of you know, because it's public news, with a lost class action by legal aid. I think that was kind of calculated. It froze our ability while we were in negotiations with them until what will be real soon. That is because they were focused on what's called minimum renters. And we agreed during negotiations to freeze the majority of our lease enforcement. But to correct this problem of having tenants that owe between 10,000 and over 30,000 when minimum rent is 51, RHA will implement a very strong and solid lease enforcement policy immediately, which we were going to start January of this year, to include having in-house legal counsel, executing unlawful retainers, and outsource critical portions to legal counsel. I've met with the mayor on this, and we will be convening a meeting the end of this month with those organizations in the city of Richmond whose mission is to house the unhoused, unlike RRHA, and to talk about early intervention and how some of those other funds can help some of those residents. But the fact of the matter is, when you owe between 10 and over 30,000, are for all city residents and not public housing residents. But the mayor and I will be getting together on that. Reduction in voucher funding. HUD took away 1.1 million in unused voucher funding in 2024 because we did not utilize all of our voucher budget authority the previous year in 2024. But this past year in 2025, we implemented an aggressive landlord lease-up program and was very successful. We met and exceeded our goals. However, because HUD took away the 1.1 million the year before, we didn't have enough budget authority, which put us in the shortfall. Rule in DC is you either use it or you lose it. We didn't. We lost 1.1 million last year. We implemented a very aggressive lease-up program, which is actually very successful. People are asking me, are there enough landlords for our vouchers? We know what landlords do in discrimination. Setting that aside, give lots of credit to our voucher team under the leadership of Corey. We had a very high lease-up rate with our landlords, which we will be sharing with City Council when we go back this year. But the fact of the matter, we were in a shortfall, 1.1 million. To solve this problem, we are actively meeting with HUD officials and making a request on a daily basis. We're meeting with them to provide a set-aside funding needed to continue providing the families that we currently assist with rental assistance. That means all the vouchers that we currently have on the street, notwithstanding that we have a $1.1 million shortfall because we didn't use enough of capacity. We're now meeting with regularly with HUD, not just HUD Richmond, but HUD DC, for them to have a set-aside funding to cover the lack of funding in the following programs. Our VASH, which is veteran vouchers, our tenant-based baseline vouchers, and our Main Street vouchers. Again, next slide, so that all the vouchers that we currently have issued, all those vouchers will be covered for in terms of budget authority. We have ceased issuing new vouchers because of the reduction from Washington, D.C. Next slide, real estate and community development. We've had continued what's called carrying costs on unsubsidized RHA properties and maintaining the exterior and interiors of those buildings. In real estate terms, that's called asset management. We have a lot of properties for which we have to maintain the internal and external, and those are called real estate carrying costs. And so those have it's been a bit challenge for real estate. Increased consulting costs we have due to the lack of additional in-house expertise. However, we're hiring a VP for real estate, and we hope that will help out. And we have thanked the board for that which we've had prior to my arrival and that we have kept. Next one, initial revenue shortage due to a more aggressive real estate development program. We do have, and the real estate has a bit of a shortage of revenue because they've been very aggressive the last 2 years in particular. However, this shortage in revenue will level off with those active real estate development activities begin to yield revenue. Next slide. Right. Phase one, we instituted this year, phase one of what I call right sizing of the organization. For our current 2026 budget, on August 1st of this year, RRHA implemented a very long overdue agency-wide right sizing activity of the agency, which resulted in identifying positions that were either redundant or no longer needed. And in some instances, we merged certain functions with other departments and divisions. As an example, when I first arrived 3 years ago, and we were at 901, when I invited all the central maintenance folks in, I said, "Hey, how are you guys doing?" They all came in, a bunch of them. And I said, "Where are the young guys?" And half the old guys raised their hand. There has been no succession planning and right standing of this agency, and we've done a complete deep analysis of this, probably for 20 years. And so this is something that we wanted to implement last year, but we decided this was the time. Additionally, we introduced a totally voluntary retirement incentive program to those employees who were eligible for retirement. The incentive plan included paid time off from October of this year to December of this year with no penalty. Employees would also continue to accrue leave during this period with an official retirement date of January 1 of next year, 2026. The plan aimed to address RRHA's need again to right size its workforce and to reduce overall expenses. We closed out on that volunteer opportunity, retirement opportunity. There was a total of 15 employees who signed up for this program, and this effort has produced cost savings. Next slide, please. Phase two, the reorganization of the agency and the repositioning of public housing assets and building a new business model. The goal of phase two of the reorganization will occur in sometime in 2026. The goal of it is to align the current workforce with RHA new business model and objectives, which is in line with the Board of Commissioners' goals and objectives, which will reduce costs and expenses for RHA under the current public housing balance sheet model and prepare the opportunity to grow to a new public-private business model with new opportunities, employment opportunities for our employees. We will conduct a strategic analysis of each department, including end-to-end functional workflows and tax processes to identify better efficiencies or certain tasks can be better absorbed by other roles. This will help identify skill gaps, potential redeployment options for employees, and provide different additional training as an alternative to layoffs. We'll also undertake improved cross-departmental collaboration, foster open communication through shared platforms, and create a more collaborative culture by setting common goals and establish clear roles and processes with shared metrics. Phase two of the organization will result in further substantial savings as we submit a balanced budget for 2027 and the subsequent years ahead. Next slide, please. Still in the phase two reorganization, finally, over the last 25 years, both parties in Washington have specifically HUD has been slowly defunding important, defunding traditional public housing. As a result, RRHA, like other housing authorities in Virginia around the country, our revenue has been steadily declining. As a result, HUD has forced public housing authorities to move to a different business model that incentivizes the private sector to get involved in the redevelopment through what? Through the use of public-private partnerships where public housing authorities use their wholly owned 501c3 nonprofits, like RHA's Redevelopment Corporation, the RDC, which, by the way, it's not new. It's been here at RRHA since 1981, and enter into public-private partnerships to redevelop public housing and generate funding for residents to assist them to achieve self-sufficiency goals, and in many instances, home ownership. Next slide. Right. Our opportunities, again, we're in the opportunity section, continued, and our real estate development. The real estate department will begin to generate more revenue from bond issuances and real estate development fees from active real estate developments. The senior vice president will be engaging in a staff assessment and a department reorganization, which I believe will result in increase of in-house development and expertise to increase in-house capacity. Home ownership. Anticipated funding from Truist Bank and Bank of America based on our banking relationships via a line of credit that we've been in conversations with them with, and or an investment loan for real estate investment opportunities. We're in conversations with them now. That will generate, watch this, month over month regular revenue for RRHA and RDC. Be more willing to talk about that. And generate revenue as for administrative fees for each of our residents that we refer to our home ownership partners, and have that reflected in all of our MOUs. Next slide, please. The Richmond Development Corporation, RDC, or what we will use in some instances, what is called a special purpose entity of the RDC, to attain CDIF status from the U.S. Treasury Department. We almost achieved that status last year, and they rejected on one item only, and we're resubmitting this year, and we've made, we believe we will get that designation because of the restructure of the RDC board. We're pretty confident of that. What will enable the RDC to do? RHA with the community, which are the communities, CDIF is a community development financial institution designation. It could apply and gain access to grants and awards from the CDFI fund for technical assistance, which can be used to purchase equipment, train staff, or pay for consulting services and build organization capacity. The RDC with the CDIF designation would also apply for capital management funds that turn into unrestricted dollars through a lending initiative. The funds will be used to support RRHA's Moonshot Anti-Poverty Initiative, which I'm going to be working with Mayor Vula and his policy person staff on THAD, which will allow RRHA to provide a range of financial services, including small business loans. These are for our residents, those who qualify, including small business loans, microloans, mortgage lending for first-time home buyers, for our Come Home initiative, and access public housing residents for voucher holders, affordable credit available to low-income and minority populations at a very, very low interest rates to 20 to 30 years. That is what is done. I've done this before for other housing authorities I've represented around the country. creating what again? Unrestricted income for the RDC. That's part of our problem. We have lots of income between our subsidy and that we get from HUD. We rely on 79% of our funding from HUD. Any business or enterprise that relies on 79% from one funder, that's not a good business model. We must have RDC. On this slide, the RDC with the CDFI designation will also be eligible to apply for grant funding for the Department of Treasury to support RRHA and real estate community development. The funds can be used to help build affordable housing projects like Gilpin Court, which is going to have construction gap. It's not if needed, it will, because in today's dollars, $466 million. That's in today. We will have gap financing. Healthcare facilities. Think about our 6 healthcare resource centers, which I've been talking with Mayor Bullitt about as well in President Newberg, and other community infrastructure in low-income areas with CDFI funds. The RDC, with this designation, could leverage its banking partners, Truist and Bank of America, to provide grants to RDC and RRHA in accordance with the Federal Community Reinvestment Act. Additionally, with what's called a CDE designation, RDC would earn unrestricted by, I'll show what a CDE is in a moment, it could attract private investment in exchange for an equity investment in a community development entity. That's what a CDE is, a community development entity. So again, it would attract private investment in exchange for an equity investment. Investors would receive a tax credit against their federal income tax over a 7-year period. It would also administer new market tax credit. This is, in fact, a core function of a CDE. The CDIF fund that RDC would have both designations. It would have a CDF designation and a CDE designation. The CDFI fund would allocate tax credit authority to they allocate tax credit authorities to certified CDEs, which then use the investments to finance business and community facilities in low-income areas. Those are the challenges and opportunities that we have, and I'll take any questions before Precious, our CFO, goes into the numbers, which she painfully made me go through all of those as well.
Commissioner Lewis, before anyone has questions and before Mrs. Faust goes, I just want to inform you that you do now have a quorum. Commissioner Parker has joined the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Precious?
Yes, so hearing no questions, we will move into the meat and potatoes of this presentation, which is our actual proposed budget for FY26. Myself, along with my colleague, Mr. Ben Funkhauser, who is affectionately known here internally as Budget Ben, will be doing the presentation. Ben is our senior budget and financial analyst manager, so he will be going through the bulk of the presentation. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Ben.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Again, I'm Ben Funkhauser, the Senior Budget Manager here at RRHA. So starting out, we're going to look at the high level of what we're proposing here, our revenue source trends. So this year we are projecting an overall increase in our total revenues of $4 million. Tenant revenue is up $1.9 million this year, while other income is decreasing by 1.3. Again, this reflects the strong performance and discipline management, and it is a positive step through it. Must compare. Sorry, let me get. Camera did something weird there. Apologize. So again, we are showing that other income is decreasing by 1.3. Again, we continue to show growing numbers. We do have a slight dip in FY25. We did not meet our occupancy metrics and our tenant income, which this had an effect over the overall projection. So we are projecting a 96% occupancy this year. The staff, we are very confident that we can hit that metric. So that's where we are seeing a 1.9 million increase in tenant, as well as our grant income is going to go up ever so slightly by 3.4 million. So next slide. Move this over to here. All right. So again, this is just another depiction of what the revenue trend is. So from FY 2020 to 2026, we've seen a growth of $29 million overall. Again, this is meaningful progress, even with subsidy losses and program shifts. As we referenced earlier, the trajectory is positive, but the reliance on HUD still makes a diversification essential here. So again, we're up 4% from last year. Just drilling in that we aim to meet all of our goals this year. I think we took a very realistic approach at it. Next slide. Yeah, and again, as stated earlier, this is just a depiction of the breakdown of where our funding is coming from. We are receiving 78% of our funding from HUD at this point, with other sources being 22%. It is our goal and our necessity to continue to get our other income sources up so we are less reliant on the HUD funding. Again, this level of dependence underscores the importance of the development and partnerships underway, like Mr. Nosmith was quoting. Next slide. All right. Now we're going to look at our agency-wide expenses. So since fiscal year 2020, our expenses have grown $37 million, partly due to getting our staffing where it needed to be. We've done a number of initiatives to streamline efficiencies, and with that is bringing in new software, new trainings, so on and so forth. And as well, we have held pretty consistent here for the past 3 years. So one of our goals last year was to reduce our spending. Unfortunately, we did not fully hit that metric. We still are dedicated to that. But as we come into this year, one of our biggest challenges is a number of our initiatives are moving out of implementation. So with that, so goes the use of capital dollars in that area. Next slide. So now we're going to break it down department by department. And first up is going to be our LIPH program. So our revenues are increasing by $1 million overall. Again, tenant revenue, we are projecting a rise of $2 million. Our HUD revenue, of course, we're projecting a reduction of $815,000, and other revenues are declining by about $170,000. So as you can see, our HUD revenue is dropping ever so slightly year over year, as well as so our reliance on that tenant income is becoming more and more of a necessity. So.
And I will just interject just to point out here. So the reduction that you see from the HUD subsidy is primarily driven by the loss of units for our Creighton development. So each year we lose a substantial amount of money as that development is underway. And that also affects revenue that our central office call center earns that supports all of the back office operations. And you'll see some of that being depicted when we get to the COCC portion of the slide. So I just wanted to kind of point out to the point of becoming less and less reliant on HUD revenue sources, as we strategize and move towards asset repositioning and redevelopment of our inventory, we will continue to lose HUD funding.
A wonderful point. And just to add on to it, that's why it's so crucial as we go through our negotiations moving forward that we are capitalizing on all the dollars and reimbursements that we can going into the expense trend for LIPH, our expenses are increasing by $990,000 this year. Again, administrative costs are rising by about $500,000. This is a lot to do with a lot of our software processes moving out of our implementation phase. So reducing the ability for capital dollars to offset these expenditures. As you all know, RRHA is very committed, and so the board and the CEO, to streamlining our operation, and this is a clear reflection of those taking hold. Utilities have climbed as well. That continues to be a big ticket item for us. They're climbing about $691,000 this year. We are actively working with analysts to pursue and identify grant potentials and getting this under control. So hopefully more to come on that as we go through discussions of just anything else you wanted to add to that bit of it, Precious. But
yeah, no, we met with a consulting firm maybe about a week or two ago. Again, just trying to put our heads together to think through ways where we could potentially save the agency money. So this could be an opportunity for us, which I think is not new for RHA. My understanding is that we utilize this practice in the past, or this method in the past, I should say. But basically, this will provide an opportunity for us to get some funding to potentially upgrade our infrastructure. So for those developments that we don't have an immediate need to redevelopment, this could potentially yield some savings. So we're right at the beginning of those discussions and making a decision to move forward with that. But we're hoping that we are able to take advantage to save us money on the utilities. This is my second year reporting an increase in utilities, so we do see that continuing to spike.
And then other than that, we are seeing our insurances increase by about $183,000. Main drivers behind that, one of them being we did just do a massive fleet upgrade at RHA that, of course, increased our insurance policies. And then maintenance, we have seen a reduction in our maintenance by about $542,000. Again, that just speaks volumes to the staff's commitment to being as efficient as possible with the resource we have. And we've our other expenses or other miscellaneous expenses to decrease by about $300,000 as well. All right, now we're going to look at the net profit loss trend for LIPH. So for LIPH, we are projecting a net loss of $1.3 million. This is going to require the use of RDC reserves. That contribution has risen by about $40,000 from last year. Like I said, program remains under pressure, as we referenced earlier. We are balancing the short-term stabilization with long-term preparation, which again, all coming from the pressures of HUD. And while we are doing things to streamline, it does take a moment to take hold. And we are doing everything, working with analysts, trying to get utilities in control, actively evaluating our expenditures on a day-to-day to bring that into check. For the capital fund expenses, or revenue, sorry. The capital fund revenues, we see a decline of about $826,000. Our soft costs have decreased by 2.2 million. Our hard costs have increased by 1.3. These funds fluctuate annually, and you again are at the discretion of what HUD is allotting to us year over year. So, Precious, did you want to add anything to the revenue trend?
The only thing that I would add, so again, with the capital funds, this is planned sources, and these sources go to the board for approval every year as well. And so you'll see the increase or the spike in the hard costs, which is the money we draw down, and that's to pay for all of the work that we're doing at the senior sites. So that's why the increase of hard costs is there. And then some of the soft costs that we've used previously to draw down for our administrative costs, those have gone down. I've reported out in my monthly reports previously, the agency was a little behind with drawing some of the funds down in previous year. So that was one of the things that myself and my staff was committed to do. So we got things caught up. So you do see a bit of a fluctuation with that. But I guess what's important for the capital fund grant, again, is money coming in, money coming out. So you would see the associated expenses tie into these revenue sources on the next few slides.
So again, for the capital fund expense side, we are seeing expenses decline by $826,000 as well. Our admin and general expenditures have dropped by $750,000, and we've seen a decline in our admin fees by about $1 million. Tenant services and maintenance, we've seen an increase of 1.4. Operating transfer decrease of 1.9 million, and the capital expenditures increase of 1.5. So again, this is in line with the revenue side, and it really has just a net zero effect. The COCC, our COCC revenues, so that's our back office departments here. COCC revenue has decreased by $167,000, with the fee income increasing, however, by $500,000. Our frontline income has decreased by $67,000. So again, our frontline is based upon our frontline services. So really decrease in that income expenditure is really putting less pressure on the programs to support those services. So it's a reflection of streamlining the expenditures in our frontline services. And then our 1410 capital income has decreased by $300,000 this year. All right, and in our expense trend, we are seeing an increase of $450,000. Our administrative costs have risen by $328,000, again, reflecting the technology and staffing, but really primarily that technology moving out of the implementation phase. Our insurance, we've seen an increase agency-wide, so that we're seeing an increase of $76,000, and our protective services that is going up by $60,000 as well. Offsetting this, however, is the tenant services. We are seeing a decline of $71,000, as well as maintenance. You see a decrease of $10,000. As continue to reference here, we are dedicated to being as efficient as possible with the limited resources we have, and this is critical to managing as these upward pressures come more evident. The COCC profit and loss trend. So we are recording a loss of $833,000. Again, that would require a contribution from RDC of $833,000, which is an increase of $616,000 from last year to GAAP.
Sorry, Ben, I was a face.
Oh, you're fine. HCVP revenues. So the HCVP program, as it is getting more and more, what's the word I'm looking for? My brain just kind of slipped.
As utilization has increased.
Thank you. As the utilization has increased in the housing voucher program, so is the revenue growth. So we are seeing a rise in about $4 million in revenue for that program, as well as the HAP income has risen $3.7 million, and our admin fees are rising about $527,000.
One thing I just wanted to point out to the commissioners as it relates to this. So our Section 8 department has done a yeoman's job with increasing utilization throughout. However, we are projecting that we will not see all the fruits of that labor in FY26, primarily due to proration factors coming in at 91%. So for every dollar that we earn, we would only get 91 cents on a dollar for that. So it's the latest projections. So again, although we were hopeful that our revenue for our admin program would come in much higher, we did have to decrease it by the proration factor that HUD issued. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, and just to add one thing, it does say there is an overall reserve contribution needed of $337,000 for this program, but that would be the program's reserve. So HCVP has its own reserve separate from the RDC fund, which is where we would be asking to pull from. And I apologize, I'm not as accustomed to what the board is aware of, but with that program in HCVP, it's more of a use it or lose it kind of thing. So just to define that separation here, I think is useful. Okay. For the expenditures, so as the utilization has gone up, so has the expenses, of course. So we're seeing an increase of about $3 million. The housing assistant payments are going up $2.8 million, while the SRAP expenditures are going up $414,000. So again, this growth reflects that we are serving more families. It's reflecting that the program is growing, really is the gist of it. So for the admin expenses, administrative expenses have increased $706,000. Our administrative costs have gone up by $414,000. Again, still reflect, well, no, that's separate. And maintenance operations has gone down. Another big line, again, is tenant selection prorations have gone up by $107,000, while the call center allocations have gone down by about $28,000, and management fees have increased by $125,000. So again, clear representation of the program's growth here, and that is why you see that increase of $706,000. As far as it is also reflective of all the training and certifications that HCVP has dedicated and all the processes that they have put in place over the last year. For our real estate division, we're seeing revenues fall by $321,000 this year. Capital admin fees, so through reorganizing and looking at RHA as a whole. The capital team has moved under a different area at RHA, so that's why you see the loss of the capital admin fee. Really, again, that is a dollar for dollar practice. So while it is stated here, just know that program has moved to another division, so thus those dollars have left the department. Other income, we're seeing a decrease of about $116,000, while proceeds from sales have increased to $192,000. Overall, we're projecting $1.4 million in revenue for this department. Yeah, I think that's just of it. For their expenditures, the total expenses for real estate, again, as they are ramping up that program to become more effective, we see the expenditures increasing $728,000. Their administrative costs have gone up $330,000. Again, that's where this whole capital funds and software implementation starts to play, as well as they are getting staffed up as projects are getting underway. Utilities, we are having to take on some utilities for that department. They do a lot of stormwater fees, as well as any of our administrative buildings that RHA owns that still have utilities. We do see an increase of $175,000. Really, this is a reflection of a failure to capture that effectively last year. But as we move into this year, we are making sure we are adequately covering, as well as we do have reoccurring meetings to discuss real estate specific utilities. So we are really dedicated to bringing those into check over this next year. Maintenance costs are increasing, of course, as we are dedicated to maintaining the lots and keeping them clean and free of any dumping or vandalism. You'll see those expenditures are going up by about $530,000. Insurance, slight uptick, again, agency-wide, we're seeing that of $12,000, with our other expenses decreasing $320,000. I also failed to note on the administrative and general expenditures, as the projects ramp up, so do our professional services, so utilizing outside parties to come in, such as attorneys, that does bring in an additional expense. So that is reflective of that as well. All right, so here's the net profit loss trend. So we are seeing for FY26, we will need to utilize a reserve contribution of $1 million. We did end up receiving some income early that real estate was projecting to have come in fiscal year 26. It was the sale of the 9 Mile lots. So really the $700,000 came in for that. And real estate was planning on including it, but since we received it early, unfortunately we can't count that as income coming in fiscal year 26 because it's already been captured. So with that, then the net difference between the $700,000 that they have brought in from that sale would be about $400,000 of additional dollars needed from RDC. This is an increase of $1 million. Again, it's very reflective of our dedication to getting these projects that have been in just a stalemate status for so long off the ground, and RHA is very committed to getting things underway here. All right, so for the RDC budget, we do see our developer fees going up $318,000. Overall income is increasing by $318,000. Again, as things are ramping up, attorney fees are going to go up. RDC is also taking on the lease for HCBP. There will be MMOU, is that properly? All right, MMOU loan coming forth for HCBP to pay back what it's owed. We project that coming into place with a start date of October of 2026 is what we are working on. That is still in the works, but know that those dollars will be recouped to the RDC by the HCBP program as they move out of 600 to 918. Let's see what else there. Other expenses, yeah, no, nothing else there. This is just a overall. No, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I touched on everything. This is just another snapshot of what we are proposing for fiscal year 26. Again, you'll see capital funds. It nets out, so revenue and expenditures match whatever we are dedicating for the projects there. COCC, again, you'll see that loss of 982. I think it was that right. Might be in this step. And RDC, of course, there's a contribution of 210. We've broken it out here in two separate lines. Real estate being 1.1 million and LIPH being 609. So overall for RDC, we're projecting a reserve contribution needed of 2.9 million. And then HCBP, again, is a separate entity from that. And we would be drawing from HCBP's reserves, which would be 462, which is split between their baseline and their mainstream program. And again, the HCBP side is more of a use it or lose it methodology. So I just want to make that clear.
To add just quickly, this is about 1.1 million, and then for their mainstream program is about 350,000. So they do have adequate reserves to cover this deficit, which the bulk of it will be coming from and with that proposed FY 2026 budget through anything that was presented.
Well, let me start with a couple questions, but first I'll say thank you. Very detailed, very informative. Understanding it's obvious that the staff put a lot of time into developing the budget. So I, appreciate the detail. Let me start with just a general question. And I want to make sure that I understand some of the numbers. I will say I don't understand all of them. But how much is being requested to move from the RDC? Is it 2.9 million?
Yes. So this slide, hopefully my screen is still sharing. This slide breaks out it gives you the overview of the budget that's being presented. So for FY 2026, our bid is 118 million. We're projecting 115 million in revenue. So there is a deficit and there is a request for RDC to contribute reserves to help balance the budget. So the total that is being requested from RDC is $2,906,297.
Okay. So what happens if you did not receive the 2.9?
We would, if we were unable to balance the budget due to the lack of reserves in the other programs outside of HCBP, we would not be able to pay the projected expenses for FY 2026. So we would either have to, further reduce expenses, or it just will put tremendous strain on the agency.
Okay. Now, again, just from my understanding, so you need 2.9 from RDC. Is it correct to assume that it's 2.9 in cash that you need?
Yes.
Okay. And I thought there was only 3 million of cash available in RDC.
Correct. So we are anticipating the sale of the East Grace Street property. We are expecting that sale price to be roughly $5 million. And so we are requesting to utilize some of those proceeds to help balance this budget.
Okay. What was the total savings in personnel with the reduction or the elimination of positions and the early retirement plan or the retirement incentive plan? What was the total savings with those two strategies?
So we're still calculating that. We are still kind of actively meeting on that, just because the employees that decided to participate in the program had until the 29th of August to turn in their paperwork. So we are still streamlining and trying to see which positions as a result of those volunteer needs to be backfilled. So a bit of a reconciliation, if you will, is kind of ongoing to determine that. But we can certainly try to have that information when we meet again on Monday.
Okay. Well, for the moment, those are my questions. City Commissioner Parker, I think I see you.
Yes, hi, Louis. I've got a question. You mentioned moving from 600 Broad to 901 and 918. What dollars do you?
So for RDC, I'll go back to that slide. For RDC, they are contributing roughly 450,000, where you see the lease office rent line. I'm sorry, for FY26 is 338,000 that they will be contributing. So that will lead to that savings for RDC. What we are contemplating is subleasing that space that could potentially cover that cost, offset that portion of the lease, and or at a premium to where it's additional revenues for RDC. So we're in negotiation right now, and we're hoping that it's the latter, where we're able to negotiate a sublease that would come in above what HCBP's portion is of that rent. So it would be an additional revenue source for RDC.
Great. One other question, Precious. You mentioned that the tenant revenues are up at this point, and I'm assuming that had a lot to do with our program to get tenants to pay, which Mr. Nesmith had worked on heavily. And do you anticipate that continue to grow? And what is your projection for growth with that funding coming from tenants?
Sure. So let me clarify a bit. So what's being presented here is revenues and expenses. And so we're able to earn revenue from tenant rent sources based off of occupancy. And so as the LIPH program continues to increase occupancy for the developments, then the revenue source should follow that same trend and continue to increase. However, collecting the cash is a different piece of this. And so collecting the cash obviously affects our ability to be able to pay expenses that we're presenting, right? So we could be, trending upwards on the revenue side, again, as LIPH is putting forward efforts to increase occupancy. But if our tenants are not paying their rent, then it puts a strain on our ability to be able to pay for these expenses. So I hope I'm making the distinction. It's kind of they're related, but they're two separate issues.
Thank you, Precious.
And if I may, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I will just comment on that, and that's why it's so important. So important for us to have a robust rent collection regime, right? I know we did what we did prior got here. That was COVID, right? And then we're no longer COVID. Again, we were just ramping up after my Compassion Action Initiative. We were about to initiate a really, I think, fair and robust lease enforcement. After all, we're nothing but a landlord. We're only asking $51. That we must get back to that because because residents were not paying that rent, we had a loss of $4.3 million.
Wow. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Precious. That's it for Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Parker, that kind of where I was going, which is my next question. I think it's, I think it's there's a little, there's somewhat of concern, say, because you have, there is evidence that we're not collecting the rent. And it doesn't matter, at the end of the month, doesn't matter what.
Right.
And that is not, I don't know the HUD rules, but I think I was told that you can't budget for bad debt. And there is no allocation in this budget for bad debt. So it's making the assumption that you're allocating 100% of the you're allocating 100% the revenue, which you're not collecting.
Right.
And so I think part of the overall deficit in the budget and the purpose of borrowing from the RDC. Now, is it the intent to repay the RDC, or it's just contribution?
My understanding for FY 2026, we're asking for a contribution and not a repayment.
That is correct. Unlike what we're doing for the move of ACV back to 918, which is really important. Obviously, we don't pay anything there. That will be a loan. And last year, when we made a contribution from the RDC, the balance budget, that was a contribution in that amount. The last several years.
And just to draw home to revenue, as Chairman Lewis just mentioned, drawing a distinction between revenue versus uncollected cash. So the slide that I have up now, you see that for FY26, we do project roughly $11 million in tenant rent as a revenue source. And so, if our collections are, 50%, then that's $5 to $6 million that we don't have in our coffers per se to actually pay for expenditures. So although it's a revenue source and, the units are occupied and we'll count it because we earned that revenue, we, and I know that our team is working diligently, but we have to increase the collection percentage in order to make sure that we are able to meet our expense obligations.
That's why here under the Board of Commissioners 2025, which will go into 2026 Board of Commissioners goal and objective document, it is embedded in there an aggressive regime
I think, Mr. Chairman, also that we really have to focus even more on a couple of areas of revenue streams that we have from outside of that through the RDC, having bonds and increasing the bonds that we have and able to let people know that we have that mechanism. And because those revenue bonds can be very lucrative at some points in time as far as helping to mitigate some of these areas of loss. And also partnerships with others on development projects. So I think we really need to look at those more extensively and in a hard light to see how we can really make these things come to fruition.
You're right. If I can speak on that for 1 second. So think about it. Before we got here, we were not involved in the execution and in the negotiations of either the Mosby Master Development Agreement nor the Creighton. We look at those now as not, and I would think with the goal in mind of recognizing we're moving from the public housing model into this other model, right? That all public houses are doing. That did not happen. We're going to see if we can have a different conversation as we look to maybe try to negotiate with the Creighton. But what do we do in Gilpin? Very different, to your point, Commissioner Parker. Unlike those other two agreements, we have a different business set model, right? We are the minority partner under that MDA. What does that mean? That means we get 35% of the revenue. That is what should happen, because I've been here. We're taking the business, different business model, because we're moving to a business model, different business model. The public housing balance sheet is shrinking. And that's what we should be doing. So your point's right, spot on, as they say.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, and I apologize. I'm in the car. I apologize. You won't hear me. So I'm struggling a little bit here because I think what I'm hearing Commissioner Lewis say is that we have a structural budget problem where we are not really looking at how we're addressing expenses to fall in with the revenues that we're going to have coming in this year. And I don't know that we necessarily have the time now to really address all of the structural issues. I think with the occupancy rates, I don't know when the last time we took units offline from rate was, but those, and so how that impacted our revenue line, I'm not sure. If we have units that are coming out offline from those or a second phase of rate next year, what that looks like, how it's going to impact it. I think, from an occupancy standpoint, that's really what we need to do with the units that we have online currently. So we can look at, our occupancy rates and help get our occupancy rates back up. The HCBP issue, that one still confuses me. I don't really understand. When did HUD reduce our funding by 1.1 billion? I feel like our utilization rate had been pretty good in the past. So what happened with our utilization rate that caused us to lose funding?
So I'll take a stab at that, Commissioner Hardiman, and I would ask my colleague, Mr. Franklin, to chime in if he feels the need to add any additional clarification. But essentially, our utilization rate in the past was not that great. As a matter of fact, when I started almost 2 years ago, it was hovering in the 85% range. We have gotten it up to 98%. So when you think about the additional revenue sources for the increase in utilization, you're right. We shouldn't have a deficit. However, for this upcoming year, essentially us and not just us, but all housing authorities throughout the agency, throughout the country will be penalized because HUD is issuing a 91% proration factor. So basically, that additional revenue that we would have realized as a result of increasing our utilization is basically being cut because we're only getting 91 cents on the dollar.
The only thing I want to add to that is that being in 2024, when utilization was only at 88%, HUD has a formula that any time there's reserves over 4% or 4.5%, they recapture that funds and they reallocate it to housing authorities that were potentially subject to a shortfall. So essentially what happened is when RRHA did not utilize the budget authority allocated in 2024, HUD basically said that because you're not expending the money, we're going to reallocate that funding to another housing authority. So that's kind of in the start of our funding year for 2025. They took the $1.1 million away from us.
And it basically becomes a game of us, proving to them that, hey, we do need your money. We do have tenants that we need to house. And so as they see our utilization continue to increase and our HAP funding increase, then they will allot us additional funding. But it's basically a catch-up game if you fall behind.
And just to echo what Mr. Nesbitt said, we have submitted all of our set-aside funding applications and shortfall prevention applications to fund us for the $1.1 million that we lost, as well as cover any additional deficits we have based off the increased leasing.
And if the proration would have held as it did last year, which I think was around 99%, proration, we wouldn't have a deficit at all because we would be getting 100% of our admin dollars.
Commissioner Hardeman, does that answer your question?
It's coming in and out there.
I'm sorry, I didn't even hear you.
I said Commissioner Hardeman, his reception was coming in and out. We're hearing like
Oh.
every fourth word.
Okay. All right. Well, are there any other?
Sorry, can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
We can.
Okay, sorry, I muted myself. I mean, I'm not going to argue last year's utilization rate with you guys. I feel like when I started on the board, our utilization rate was close to 100%, and HCDP was growing significantly year every year, and additional funding coming in. But so the $1.1 million was taken away this year, or it's taken away for next year?
We're taking away for 2025, sir.
So, I mean, here, my biggest problem is this. I mean, I'm assuming we're being expected to vote on this budget next week, and it's a week before that we've gotten it. And I feel like a lot of these financial problems before this have been problems before today. So, I mean, my biggest question is, can we pay our bills right now?
And I was having trouble hearing
He
Commissioner.
asked him, are we paying our bills right now?
Are we paying our bills right now?
Yes, that's his question.
Yeah, that's the question.
Yes, we're paying bills.
Like, it sounds.
Okay, I guess the question. Let me add to the question. Are there receivables over? I'm sorry, payables. I'm sorry. Are there payables over 45 days?
Yes.
So I would say
Okay, I'm
I'm sorry, Commissioner, go ahead on.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like we need to take a stronger look at the budget proposals here, the impact that they're going to have on the budget, and we need to see, what those. I mean, there's a lot of conversation about converting RDC to a CDFI. I don't know what that means. I mean, I don't know what physical needs there are in 901 if we're actually moving people back there, but that cost is going to be. I am very concerned about how we're filling the gap with this money from RDC. What other steps we might take to ensure stay solvent this coming year. So that is my biggest concern.
I'll add two things on that. One, I know that, and this is being very serious. I know I saw things up on social media asking the question, are we paying our bills? I know that people like to say when we're in other crises, things get posted to me, and I didn't see that people begin asking questions just like that. I think it's a very serious question to ask, but even if we're 45 days up, the answer is yes, we're paying our bills. I think there was also something out there on social media. I think it just gets around. I had to say this, Chair Lewis, that we weren't payroll. There's things that just gets out there. There's another thing that I think out there, and I think it's really unfortunate, right? And we can speak truth to power. Well, that RRHA is using its retirement fund to meet budget. No, we use several levers to do that. And so I agree with Commissioner Hardiman that there should be some concerns. From my perspective only, I'd be concerned too, particularly if there are rumors out there. I think what we have done today is try to put those rumors to bed in facts. I agree with Commissioner Hardiman in terms of having more time is always something that's very important. But I just want to underscore, and there have been other things going on with the agency. I've seen people go out and put rumors out there, and it has nothing to do with the budget when we've been having other crises. But I think each time we've shown as a team, we've been able to give facts, and I think we've done it today. But I appreciate your concern, Commissioner Hardiman.
Commissioner Hardiman, let me ask a question that maybe it's also ask the question to you, and it's something that I'm wondering will help us understand this a little bit better, especially from the standpoint of cash. And I'll just say this much: I'm not on social media, so I have no idea what you're referring to, what people are saying. But that's irrelevant. Maybe the piece that is missing, or that would help us, if we had a projected cash flow for FY26. And maybe at that point, we could see where there might be deficits in the cash, or shortage in the cash. Would that?
I think so. I think that would be helpful. I mean, I'm not sure I haven't heard anything about the retirement plan or anything like that either. I haven't seen anything on social media. I'm concerned about what I've heard tonight or this afternoon.
And Commissioner Lutz, I do want to add one other thing, and that is we must understand as HUD continues to reduce the public housing balance sheet. I think one thing, and I think Mike Kelly, you need to give some perspective on this as a former CEO. As HUD continues to reduce all public housing balance sheet, we cannot seek to balance the public housing balance sheet by looking at traditional revenue streams under a public housing balance sheet when we are seeking to do what we should do, and that is to demolish it. Every time we demolish, we lose subsidy. Then we see the decreases from our other programs as well. That also was put putting a squeeze on our overall, not just cash flow, but the balance sheet. And so, one of the things that we did talk about, and I think Mike Kelly, I don't know with George Martin or if our CFO, is that we got to start getting, because this is not the first time we've leveraged or tapped the RRHA balance sheet the last 3 years here. We did that. But I think that, I don't know, it was Patrick and George Martin, if you can talk about this, that I think there needs to be a serious conversation. You're on mute, Mike Kelly. There needs to be a serious conversation about there being a dedicated fund that we use to balance the balance sheet. Because if you really think about that, when you have a restriction, when that's being shrunk, we're gonna find ourselves in trouble. Mike Kelly.
Yeah, I think as we move from a Section 9 to a Section 8 platform, basically, there is going to be this transition period where we need to be nimble. It does make sense to have a type of funding source to assist through that transition. We have completed, or Jeff Lyons and TAG has completed some asset repositioning studies that talk about this transition period for Creighton, the completion of Clayton, Mosby, and Gilpin. And we are now sort of in a position to make that kind of projections about what we would need to have on an ongoing basis to cover sort of transitional periods. As we reduce the staffing, for example, on maintenance because of the demolition piece, there's like a step down period and a step up period that needs to be accounted for in a budget. And I think we're at a critical point in the agency right now where we definitely need to do that. It's been evidenced by this first year of tapping. Well, we've tapped the RDC budget in the past, but this is an example of where the RDC budget needs to find a sustainable revenue resource, and the effort needs to be not only on the reduction of expenses, which is critical in this transition, which we plan to do. There is a plan in place for the next fiscal year to begin the transition to reduce our expenses pretty dramatically. But equally, there has to be a renewed focus on revenue to support through the RDC, a revenue source that can help us through these transition periods.
Are you still there, Commissioner Hardeman?
I am. I agree. We do have a structural problem, and I feel like we go this direction that is pushing us for a while. So this transition period is critical. But I don't know. I feel like I don't know enough about what's the financials to be able to say or be able to help understand what programs and what processes we're undertaking, what impact it's going to have on our performance. So that's why I wish we have more time to kind of dig into the budget and that asset repositioning process. I don't know. I don't think I've seen that.
When is the budget due to HUD? Is it in September? I'm not. Is it in October?
And so it has to be approved by the board prior to the start of the new fiscal year.
Yeah. Okay.
One of the things, if I may offer, Commissioner Lewis, is that, and I know that Commissioner Harmon is a very busy guy, gentlemen, if whether or not we can offer him, again, I know he's scheduled busy, sometime tomorrow, Friday, or Monday, or Tuesday, where if he had an hour and a half, he can ask some more deeper questions without a larger team on, and we to his specific questions.
I don't think a meeting is going to work for me until I have got a full set of financial statement work with before. There's an 80-page budget, and it's got everything in it.
Gotcha.
If we're pulling levers if we're pulling levers in our retirement fund, we need to know what those levers are to understand where that money's coming from. How much is out of RDC? Like, it's just like, I mean, as Commissioner Lewis said, seeing the cash flow statement, you know, I don't know that we need to like dig it up the actual ledgers, but it's like we need to I feel like we need to know where the money's coming from, where it's going, and not just for next year, but that's looked like in this past year too. And I wish we had started talking about this in April or May.
Well, let's see. What's your app, the next? Let me have, well, let me ask another question, and I guess this is, if any other commission be just between the governor's committee meeting. Can we talk?
Are you asking me, Commissioner Lewis?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to talk with you either in between the meetings or after the government.
If I understand correctly, we're not voting. This is
amount of time to dragged me, Precious,